100,000 telephone calls from people concerned about fuel and food. But neither fuel nor food was actually affected. No. Why? Because %90 of the volume of goods transported around the world, 89.6%, is carried by sea, 10.2% by land, and a mere 0.3% of the most expensive and valuable materials by air. And of course, if you're an island, as we are, then it's more like 95% comes by sea. But we do, of course, have the Channel Tunnel. So for that reason, having your airspace closed for 6 days did not actually cause us a terrible amount of trouble, unless you happen to be flying to an important conference somewhere else in the world. That is a forecast of maritime trade from about 2008, with forecasts up to 2010, and you can see that the volume of maritime trade carried in ships in ton miles, which is the standard measure, was 35,000 billion ton miles. That is an incredible figure. If we move forward to it was forecast that would increase to 50,000 billion ton miles by 2030, or an increase of a further 50%. In fact, by 2018, it had already reached 50,000 billion ton miles. Now, when I first looked at these graphs, I found that figure incomprehensible. But let's do a reality check. The amount of the volume actually carried was 8 billion tons in 2007 and 10.3 billion tons in 2016. So, if you take 50,000 billion and divide it by 10 billion, you get 5,000 miles, which is actually quite credible, because that's how far ships typically go when they're carrying oil from the Middle East, and further if it's a container ship from China. So that figure stands up, 50,000 billion ton miles. Here, and to cross-check it again, here we have the billions of tons of goods loaded here on the left, and if we go to 2016, it's about 8 billion, as we saw. That's the black figure. So that's about right. And that's where we are now, 2018, 10 billion tons, 50,000 billion ton miles. So the figures do add up. These figures, by the way, come from this book, Geography of Transport Systems, which if you want to follow this up, that's a good book to consult. And anything that goes into a fourth edition must, by definition, be pretty good, because otherwise publishers wouldn't be republishing it. That's volume. Of course, that's not the same as by value. By value, that 90% becomes about 70%. Shipping is the lifeblood of the global economy, therefore. Without shipping, the international trade, the bulk transport of raw materials, and the import-export of affordable food and manufactured goods, just about every piece of electronic equipment you have, much of it is made in China, and that comes from China in big containers, in big container ships. So it looks as if the prospect for the industry's further growth is strong. That 70% of trade by value, 70% of the trade by value attracts about the fees, the cost of transporting it is about 5%. So that is pretty, I think you would agree, that's pretty cost effective. About 50,000 merchant ships trading internationally, registered in 120 nations. Sailors and officers come from just about every nationality, but a large number are from the Philippines and from China. Many of the officers are Chinese, Singaporean, European, or North American. Ships are very high-value assets. A modern merchant ship, highly sophisticated, can cost more than $200 million to build, and that also, of course, makes them very good targets for pirates and indeed for maritime terrorists, and more of that later. And as I say, it is the most cost-effective way of transporting large volumes of goods. We are an island, and this is a plot showing the intensity of maritime traffic, and of course it peaks in the very narrow span of the English Channel, where UK territorial waters and French territorial waters actually meet. We drive on the right at sea, and so if you're coming from, let's say you're coming from Russia, you have to drive down there. So you go onto the British side, which is why we had the Admiral Kuznetsov aircraft carrier en route to Syria on our side of the channel. And I'm sure the Russians thought very carefully about that, because they also did it on Trafalgar Day, the 21st of October. Just a reminder, the UK offshore marine area, the territorial sea, 12 nautical miles. So we drew a line down the middle there with the French on the other side. And then out to 200 nautical miles, you get the exclusive economic zone. Again, that had to be halved going down the Irish Sea, because that's the Republic of Ireland.